Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of Pumapunku, the precision-cut ruins that defy explanation. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction. Not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. At 850 meters above sea level on the Bolivian altiplano, just west of the ancient city of Tiwanaku, lies one of the most extraordinary archaeological sites on Earth. Pumapunku is a field of destruction, enormous blocks of hard andesite stone, weighing up to 100 tons each, scattered as if hurled by some catastrophic force. But look closely at the surfaces of those blocks, and you find something that stops engineers cold. The cuts are perfect. The holes drilled into the stone are accurate to within a millimetre. The H-shaped blocks interlock with each other in ways that require manufacturing tolerances that modern machinists find impressive. This was accomplished by a people who had no iron tools, no wheel, and no writing system, none of the technologies that conventional history associates with precision engineering. The quarry for the andesite lies 90 kilometers away at Lake Titicaca. The builders somehow transported blocks the size and weight of small houses across high-altitude terrain and cut them to specifications that modern craftsmen struggle to reproduce with metal tools. Pumapunku was built around 536 to 600 AD and abandoned around 1000 AD. The civilization that built it vanished without leaving a record of how they did it. That absence of explanation is the deepest mystery Pumapunku presents. This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the wider world of ancient technological anomalies, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. The official story of technological progress follows a reassuring arc: stone tools giving way to bronze, bronze to iron, iron to steel, and finally, the Industrial Revolution catapulting humanity into the modern age. In this narrative, each generation inherits a slightly more sophisticated toolkit than the last, and no knowledge is ever truly lost. It is a comfortable story. It is also, in key respects, demonstrably false. History is littered with technological achievements that appeared centuries before their supposed invention, vanished after the cultures that created them collapsed, and were reinvented, often with great difficulty, by later civilizations who had no idea the knowledge had ever existed. Roman concrete was stronger and more durable than most modern concrete, and was not matched again until the 21st century. Greek fire, the incendiary weapon that protected the Byzantine Empire for centuries, has never been fully reproduced. Damascus steel, capable of holding an edge that modern metallurgists struggle to replicate, disappeared with the craftsmen who made it. These are not myths. They are documented historical losses of genuine technical knowledge. When we encounter an object from the ancient world that should not exist, a battery from Baghdad dated to the Parthian era, a computing mechanism salvaged from an ancient shipwreck, a map showing geographical features that were not officially discovered for another millennium, the temptation is to dismiss it as misidentified or misdated. That dismissal is sometimes warranted. But when such objects accumulate, when the pattern becomes too consistent to ignore, the honest response is to ask whether our model of ancient capability is simply wrong. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter, the core evidence surrounding Pumapunku. The precision-cut ruins that defy explanation is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. Pumapunku is a ceremonial mound and temple complex forming part of the larger Tiwanaku archaeological site in the Bolivian department of La Paz, approximately 20 kilometers east of Lake Titicaca. The site sits at an altitude of 850 meters above sea level, making construction logistics exceptionally demanding. Tiwanaku was the capital of a major pre-Columbian empire that dominated the southern Andes between approximately 300 and 1000 AD, and Pumapunku served as its principal ceremonial gateway complex. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen. Instruments malfunction. Researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered the largest stone blocks at Pumapunku are composed of andesite, a hard volcanic rock whose nearest quarry has been identified at the Copacabana Peninsula on Lake Titicaca, approximately 90 kilometers from the site. The heaviest blocks are estimated to weigh between 100 and 130 tons. Transporting such masses across high-altitude terrain without wheeled vehicles represents an engineering challenge that experimental archaeology has not fully resolved. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this. And that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. The most discussed features of Pumapunku are precisely cut H-shaped andesite blocks containing channels, ledges, and drill holes that fit together with interlocking joints. Laser measurement of the drill holes has recorded tolerances of approximately 1 millimetre across the full depth of the bore. These holes are circular to a degree of precision that engineers testing replicas have found difficult to achieve consistently using the stone and bronze tools available in the Andes at the time of construction. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, radiocarbon dating of organic material from construction contexts at Pumapunku consistently places the main building phase between approximately 536 and 600 AD. This dating is considered reliable by mainstream archaeologists and definitively rules out Arthur Posnansky's 1945 claim that the site was 15,000 years old. Associated ceramics are stylistically consistent with the Tiwanaku Roman IV period, confirming the radiocarbon result through independent cross-dating. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of Tiwanaku and Pumapunku were abandoned around 1000 AD, most likely due to a prolonged regional drought that devastated raised field agriculture. Lake Titicaca fell significantly during this period, undermining the agricultural base that supported the Tiwanaku Empire. The abandonment appears to have been relatively rapid rather than a gradual decline, and the site was not resettled at comparable complexity. Subsequent Inca occupation was limited and included no major construction at Pumapunku. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding. Experimental archaeology conducted by researchers including Alexei Vranish has demonstrated that skilled craftsmen using stone tools, abrasive sand, and sustained effort can reproduce surface finishes and hold tolerances comparable to those at Pumapunku. The argument that precision requires modern machinery has been effectively rebutted by these experiments. The genuinely unexplained element is not the precision itself, but the logistical capacity to transport massive blocks 90 kilometers and execute construction at altitude with pre-industrial technology. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations, and in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain Pumapunku, the precision-cut ruins that defy explanation. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that the Tiwanaku people developed sophisticated stoneworking techniques over centuries of accumulated craft knowledge, achieving the observed precision through specialist guilds, large labor pools, and extended construction timescales. Mainstream Bolivian and international archaeologists support this interpretation, noting that the Tiwanaku Empire's resources and organizational complexity was sufficient for such a project. Comparable precision stoneworking is documented in Inca masonry, which was also achieved without iron tools or wheeled vehicles. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that Erich von Däniken, the Ancient Aliens television series, and various alternative researchers have proposed that Pumapunku's stonework exceeds what a pre-industrial culture could achieve, requiring either a lost, advanced civilization or extraterrestrial assistance. This interpretation has been comprehensively rejected by professional archaeologists and engineers. Experimental replication has reproduced similar precision using period-appropriate tools, and no physical evidence of advanced or non-human agency has been identified at the site. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that a minority position holds that Pumapunku was constructed by an earlier unknown culture that preceded Tiwanaku and possessed craft technologies subsequently lost. Proponents note that some blocks appear stylistically inconsistent with other Tiwanaku construction, and that the degree of precision represents a peak not matched in later Tiwanaku work. Mainstream archaeologists consider this speculative. Radiocarbon dates and ceramic associations firmly anchor the construction within the documented Tiwanaku cultural sequence. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding Pumapunku, the precision-cut ruins that defy explanation, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes microscopic and macroscopic analysis of tool marks on Pumapunku's stone surfaces has consistently shown characteristics consistent with stone and bronze tools, rather an iron, rotary machinery, or laser cutting. The striations, scoring patterns, and surface textures fall within the range expected from abrasive stoneworking using harder cobbles and bronze chisels. These findings have been confirmed by multiple independent researchers and are considered definitive by the archaeological community, ruling out the use of any non-period technology. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented unfinished blocks at the Copacabana andesite quarry on Lake Titicaca preserve progressive stages of manufacture, from rough quarrying through to fine surface finishing. These unfinished pieces demonstrate the step-by-step process by which the blocks were shaped and confirm that techniques were consistent throughout, with no evidence of any transition to different manufacturing methods. The presence of abandoned, partly worked blocks at the quarry is one of the strongest arguments for conventional craft production. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed. Arthur Posnansky published a claim in 1945 that Tiwanaku was constructed around 15000 BC based on astronomical alignment analysis. This date has been definitively rejected by all subsequent researchers. Radiocarbon dating, ceramic typology, and architectural analysis independently converge on the Tiwanaku Roman IV period, 400–800 AD. Posnansky's methodology has been identified as fundamentally flawed, and his chronology appears in no peer-reviewed publication, yet the 15000 BC figure continues to circulate in alternative history literature. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding Pumapunku, the precision-cut ruins that defy explanation. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. Active archaeological excavation at Pumapunku is ongoing under the direction of the Bolivian Ministry of Cultures, with contributions from international teams. Ground-penetrating radar and photogrammetric mapping have characterized the site in unprecedented detail in recent years. The transport mechanism for moving andesite blocks from the Lake Titicaca quarry 90 kilometers away remains the most actively debated logistical question. Proposed methods include waterborne transport across the lake and overland sledging using log rollers or lubricated tracks. Ancient Aliens television coverage has significantly distorted public understanding of Pumapunku, attributing to extraterrestrial intervention what is more plausibly the product of organized human labor within an exceptionally sophisticated early state. The site's genuine mysteries, transport logistics, organizational structure, and the precision achieved without metal tools are compelling entirely without embellishment. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of Pumapunku, the precision-cut ruins that defy explanation, from the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Pumapunku ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.